So I have talked about this book a couple of times already, I think, before I've even finished it. And I finally, last week, it took me like a week to finish in the end. I was like, oh, I'll finish it quickly. I did not. And I'm glad I didn't, because I think it would have ruined it if I did, because I don't think this is a story you should rush. This is First They Killed My Father. It's another Cambodian account of the Cambodian genocide that happened in the 1970s. The difference, I think, I was talking about this with my dad because he's not read this one. He's read two of the others that I read one of his that he's read. And there's one that he's read that I've not read, and then I've got many that I've read that he's not read, so there you go. I think the difference this time, because I've not read The Boy at S21, The Mystery Boy at S21, so that's obviously another child. But this girl, she was 5 when it started, and she was from the middle class, so they were well off in Cambodia at the time. The dad, I think, was a police officer. The mum was a housewife, and they were half Chinese, half Cambodian. And, kind of the first couple of chapters are like setting the scene and who the family are, and you get in the middle, you get these photos of the family. So you get to see kind of everyone halfway through the story, and I'm not gonna lie, I think this was the most hard-hitting of the stories that I've read so far about Cambodia. I think because it's longer, it's about 3 times the length of the other books, and you feel more connected, maybe. I don't know, this is my opinions. I'm not saying any story is worse than one, or any experience is worse than someone else's, because what the Cambodians went through in the 1970s and before and after was horrible and tragic and should have been stopped before it happened. So I'm not going to compare. I shouldn't compare. I'm not trying to compare. I think this one was different because it's the mind of a 5-year-old trying to come to grips with why she has to move home, why she has forcibly is moved away from home, and she believes that she can go back in 3 days, so she asks her father why they're not, and he says you cannot trust the Khmer Rouge, and they're just constantly walking, and this 5-year-old is trying to comprehend what is going on. And there's let me go back to the family tree because I want to get this right so that I do not get it wrong, if you know what I mean. So it's told from Loung, her point of view. If I try and show the family tree here, this one here, it's told from her point of view, and she has 3 sisters and 3 brothers. So there's 7 children, and obviously mum and dad and 2 uncles and an aunt, and then you get introduced to more family members like sister-in-laws and wives and husbands, that kind of thing. You see her grow up so fast. When it finishes, when the genocide is over, when the Vietnamese liberated Cambodia and fought against the Khmer Rouge to get rid of it, she's 8, almost 9, and she's just grown up so much. And it goes into detail the things you don't get to hear in the other books, I think. Because the other books are obviously based more on S21 because they're survivors of S21. Whereas this goes into detail about the mass moving, the mass exodus, the mass deportation, being out of the country, the moving from Phnom Penh, and then how each town is then run by the Khmer Rouge and people have to move around, and how there's 2 different groups, basically. The base people, the ones that were there before the Khmer Rouge, and then the ones that are moved there. people from the capital and from the big cities. I mean, obviously it's spoilers, but I mean, even if you read it, it will come as a shock and a hurt to you, and how suddenly the dad is taken away and the sister is taken away. One of the sisters, it's the oldest sister is taken away, and then the dad is taken away eventually, and then how two of the brothers move, and then how Kim, Cho, Luang have to kind of separate, and how they end up in their own types of camps, and how Luang has to learn to fight, how she learns to fight, and then eventually how the mum and the baby sister, Giak, are eventually taken away and killed, and you learn about when they reunite and when they're separated, and it's up and down. And I'm glad I took the time to read it, as much as I wish to finish it quickly. I'm glad I took the time to read it, because I think I picked it up more. I think when it's stuff like this, you can't rush at all, because you do a disservice and a disjustice to their memoirs and their memories. It does kind of end on a happy note. Two of them, I think it's Kim. Is it Kim or is it Meng? One of the brothers, and Luang, they moved to America to start a new life. I think it's Kim. No, it's Meng. Meng and his wife, they and Luang moved to America to try and bring the others over after the war. And they never do. But they send money and they do family reunions. And I think what's heartbreaking is when you start looking at the pictures halfway through. The one that struck me, I think, the most, well, one of the ones that struck me the most was this one. Because you have little Gyak here, and as it says, it's the only known photo of her. And then the other one that struck me was Wat Ta Prom, the picture here, because I've been there. I've stood there. I've taken that photo before. So I think seeing it and you're like, just reading this was painful, but it was you have to do it. You have to read this kind of stuff because you have to learn. And then the family picture as well at the bottom here was quite hard to watch and look at. Yeah, just because, it's a place you've been, and just the way she describes things. I talking about this book, it's an incredible book. It's a hard read. When I was reading it, I kind of wish I had a second book on the side, but I wanted to dedicate all my attention to this. But part of me wish I had a more uplifting book, I think, to go alongside of it, just so that I was reading it and I was really sad and really angry and frustrated, and I don't know the right words for it, it's that feeling. But I do wish I'd kind of had an uplifting book just to not take my mind off of it, but feel reading something alongside of it, I think, would have helped in a way. I don't know how to explain it, but I think it would have helped. But it's finished now. When I go back to Korea, I have one more kind of survivor story, which is The Boy at S21. So I can read that, and then I have the book about Cambodia as well. And I think that's the final book I have about Cambodia. But I'll take them slow. There's no point rushing them. But if you have not read about Cambodia and the genocide, I highly recommend it because it's worth it. Any history book that tells us how we got somewhere or what happened is important, I think. So I definitely recommend reading stuff like this. I got this from the English Book Exchange, whereas the others I bought in Korea. But this one I got on the English Book Exchange, and I'm glad I got it because it's worth the read. So there we go. If you have read similar books, whether it's about Cambodia or about another part of the world that's had genocides or atrocities happen and they're survivor stories, and you've read them and you recommend them, please let me know what they are, or even any other books. It could be any book if you want to recommend it. I am always happy to have more recommendations. My TBR is definitely a mile long, but a marathon is also fine. I hope whatever you're reading right now you're enjoying, and you're taking the time to enjoy it and truly absorb it. So with that, I'll say goodbye.